So I wasn't expecting to tell this, so if this isn't, I just ask your indulgence a little bit because I thought Martha would be telling a story tonight. Um, so, and this is, I'll warn you, this is maybe a cold winter's night kind of story. I knew that something was wrong as soon as I turned my key in a deadbolt and the door to my house drifted open. See, I don't care about that kind of thing. I just lock the deadbolt. It's kind of the only one that really works anyway. And yet my roommate was a single lady. She liked to be cautious. She would always, always hit the doorknob too. So when the door opened, I knew that she hadn't been in and out of the house in the 3 days since I had left. Now, I bought my house when I was 19 years old and I dropped out of college, which is a whole other story. But, I'm 45 now. So, I've had a lot of roommates. And, my house is not in a fashionable part of town. So it's sort of through all different kinds of weird experiences that people come to my room that I let. Like their house burns down or something. And the way that this roommate had come to me was through a frantic phone call in the middle of the night where the first question was, "Hey, Dan, I'll call her Nancy. Remember we used to work together at that video store. Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember you, of course. I mean, we haven't talked in a couple years, but we worked together for 6 years." She's like, "Oh, do you still have that room upstairs that you rent out?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Is it available?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "That's great because I'm getting kicked out of my apartment and I don't have anywhere else to go." I was like, "Well, let's talk about this a little. What are you getting kicked out of your apartment for?" She was like, "Well, I'm not paying my rent." I was like, "Well," she could hear the hesitance in my voice. She's like, "Well, don't worry about it because I turn 65 next month anyway, so I'll get Social Security. At the worst case scenario, maybe it takes a couple months to kick in, and then, I'll just pay you the back rent, and then I'm getting a check every month. You don't have to worry about where the rent's coming from." Again, this is not a fashionable neighborhood. It's far from the worst case scenario I've ever heard with somebody proposing to go into the room. So I said, "Sure." So the next day she moved in a series of garbage bags that had been hastily stuffed together from her old place. And you know what? It turned out to be amazing. It turns out you've gotten those little Social Security notices that tell you how much you're likely to get when you retire. I mean, I don't know who's that close to retirement yet, but the government is watching. They know when you're about to retire. They know when you're going to draw on Social Security. She got Social Security instantly. She didn't miss a payment. It was beautiful. And again, I don't know how many people have roommates, but a roommate who never misses the rent, this was amazing. And she was kind of a loner. I mean, this is one I'd known for 6 years who I hadn't talked to in 2 years just because, we kind of we stopped working together. She dropped off the face of the earth. Not super unusual, but, she kept to herself. I quickly found that she was kind of a loner. She would just stay up in her room, but, just the normal flow of coming in when somebody's just leaving and stuff like that. We would talk. And she had used to write reviews, movie reviews and things for this video store that we worked with. So she loved to talk about TV and movies. So we actually developed this relationship where, she would tell me what she was watching. She would ask what I was watching. And, we really bonded. And it was great because, it was that perfect balance of you talk just as much as you want. And then she's got to, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm going to go now." So we developed a nice relationship. I got in touch with some of our other coworkers, brought them over for dinners, and everybody had the same story. They're like, "Well, I hadn't seen her in years, but it was great." So we would have these little one-on-one dinners, and that went that way for almost a year. And then it was last Thanksgiving that she came back she used to take these trips. She would go out as far as SEPTA would go. Because, again, she's 65. She has the card. SEPTA, she can ride the buses and the trains for free. So she would just randomly pick a line and ride it all the way to the end. So she would come back with, pictures of the nuclear reactors near the the shopping malls and just be like, oh yeah, this is great. I got 16 rolls of toilet paper and 45 cans of tuna fish and everything. So good trip on so many counts. Well, Thanksgiving, day before Thanksgiving, I guess, she had come back from one of those trips, and she looked real pale. She looked real worn out. She was just sweating and bleach white. And, we kept asking her if she was okay and what did she need from us. She was like, oh, nothing. I just need to sit down for a while. So she did, and then she went up to bed. And the next morning, I was going to go out, and we were going to go over to my boyfriend's house for a few days. So, because we both had off, we had stuff we were going to do. So we checked in with her. He got her a couple Gatorades from the store and everything, and we left. And when I came back, that's when I opened the door with just the deadlock and realized that she hadn't gotten back out of bed. And I'll be honest that I had a bad feeling right from that moment. And of course I went upstairs and, not of course, but I went upstairs and I opened her door and I saw her laying in bed, kind of like a Botticelli, one leg off, bare-chested, with her arms kind of thrown out like this, and her skin was gray. I mean, there was no question that she was dead. I've told this story a different way. There's all sorts of things that happen when, you find someone like that in your house, but I guess the thing that the way I'll end it this time is that, I told you she was a loner. She was isolated from her family. It took us a long time to track down her family, and the coroner wouldn't take her out of my house until they did, because I guess that if they take somebody out of the house, that's the city saying, like, well, whatever happens, we'll pay for it. So they waited until they found the family, and it took a while. And they hadn't seen her in years. Other coworkers I reached out hadn't seen her in years. So I think back on it and, what I could have done. Should I have made her call 911 or whatever? But what I do know, and I don't know if that would have helped. I don't know if that would have made a difference. But what I do know is that for the year that she stayed with me, I got her to connect with people. I connected with her. I may not have been able to give her much, but at least for the last year of her life, I gave her a home. Thank you.